Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Leal. I am here today to talk about the astrological energies from August 3rd until August 9th. We've just passed the full moon in Aquarius, and we are moving towards the solar eclipse in Leo, and that is going to happen on August 12th. Sun eclipses, especially if they are total, are events of great magnitude. They are new moons, but they have the power of three events like this one. So I'm going to talk about this eclipse in the next broadcast, but it is active from this moment. So you can understand, that there is an acceleration of processes, beginnings and endings, karmic processes. I am not using in here karmic with this negative connotation. I never use this word that way. But as experiences that the soul needs to integrate or go through in this phase. And you could be feeling also like weird energy in the environment or a great download of information through dreams. Okay, so let's go with the first event. August 3rd, Chiron starts its first retrogradation for us in Taurus. We haven't had a Chiron in Taurus for more than 40 years. And on September, is going to come back to Aries, where, this is a sign where Chiron is going to awaken on January. Uh, so this means that the next months we are going to review processes that were shown in the first entrance. Later we are going to close a cycle with Chiron Aries. You have to take into account that these days could, it could be re-emerging painful topics related to our value, related to how we are feeling or how we feel that other people are giving value to us. And of course, it is very important to observe what kind of choices we are making in these circumstances. There is a lot of tendency to the imbalances being manifested in the physical body, symptoms that are presented as an adaptive response to something that we need to manage, whether this is emotionally or in our decisions. Also, the focus in, economy topics or material resources, experiences that are showing us how we are giving value to what we are offering or receiving, whether, because we are not that aware of the ways in which we are investing our time or resources. This means that there could be a certain investment of energy that is not coherent with what we really want, or because we are, for example, in a situation that is not reciprocal. And many times, people from their conditionings in their self-esteem, have this tendency to give even more in relationships or situations where there is not a willingness to offer this reciprocity in order to change that. And that is not the way things work. So other people could be too much focused in receiving, but not developing ways of giving. This could embrace not only relationships, also projects, things that we could contribute our immaterial resources, because they are also very useful. Knowledge is a way of offering a resource, and certain resistances could be created precisely from these Chironian wounds, believing that we are not enough, or these kind of things, or having to learn, to respect processes, because Taurus is a sign of Earth. So processes in Taurus are, have the tendency to go slow, because that is the way that we can actually create stability. And many times, because we don't have an immediate result, or a result that is being presented according to our expectations, we could be, in resistance to keep investing our energy. And there are purposes of the soul that could demand years, because we need to incorporate certain learnings or talents that we need to develop. And as much as we can obtain certain things in a quick way, we could also lose them in a quick way, because we don't know how to sustain them. So there is the importance of stability, of creating things that are actually solid. In another perspective, this could be linked with learning to giving value to things that are going beyond the material things, and many times we give value to those things when when we lose them. For example, when we are not well physically, perhaps is the moment where we are able to recognize and to appreciate having health. And this could involve other things, having a home where we can stay, having food, or people that are surrounding us that could be a true support, fertile relationships of growth. And well, there could be people that are like in another polarity. Perhaps they are able to appreciate all of this, but they are disconnected from their bodies, or that they need material means to live. So they have to focus more in making concrete acts to descend to earth these projects. And because of these things that I am explaining, the beginning of the week could present a certain discomfort, or yeah, we have to deal with aspects that are hurting us and that are still hurting. So um, things are changing towards August 6th, because Venus enters Libra. Venus has two domiciles. One of them is Taurus, the other one is Libra. Therefore, Chiron is responding to her. And well, this year also, Venus is going to make a retrogradation between the first degrees of Scorpio and the last degrees of Libra. I'm going to talk about that later. But with this entrance in its domicile, automatically Venus is going to create this grand trine of air with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. This is a configuration that is conformed only by trines, which are the most harmonic aspects that we have in astrology. So Venus in Libra responds to the desire to generate balance, beauty, peace, both internal and external, in the relationship with ourselves and in what is being expressed in the environment. Balance is not always equal as being in agreement or wanting to reconcile with everyone. It's to learn to observe the scale in the most objective way that we can do that, and recognizing if we are investing our energy in the right place or not, if we are putting too much or we are putting less, and to compensate that. So relationships and ways that we are generating resources are totally associated with Venus. And with this aspect with Pluto and Uranus, there is this possibility to open processes with connections that are bringing this fresh air, new ideas, new perceptions of reality. They are helping us to question ourselves and to see situations in a different way. We could talk about groups or communities with whom we feel this affinity, we share causes, or we share values. Relationships and projects that are creative and they have this very evolutionary impulse and that are transforming us in a very positive way. We are not talking about of the intentions with Pluto that bring these transformations, but with more resistance. We have of that too this week and the next one. But well, what I'm trying to say is that we mutually can help us to help mutually to open these doors and to make exchanges that are bringing renewal. And if we talk about relationships of love in these terms, in this structure with the presence of Pluto, we could talk about relationships of much intensity and magnetism. But you have to take into account that emotional intensity at the beginning doesn't mean that this is always love or a connection from soul. In fact, there is how abusive relationships start too. So I'm going to make a disclaimer in here, because Venus in Libra is also going to be in a position with Neptune retrograde in Aries. And everything that is wonderful in here, all the wonderful things that could be manifested through this grand trine of air, only could be possible while we are willing to be honest with ourselves. And I am saying this because there is a very strong tendency to self-deceit with this opposition. And of course, this could be traduced in believing lies of other people, or coming back Neptune retrograde to spaces where we know that we cannot grow, nor spiritually, nor in any other sense. So with these kind of oppositions, there could be shown tendencies to escapism, like wanting to run away from ourselves through relationships or through other projects or things that are not having a true purpose, a true evolutionary purpose in our lives. There is a tendency to create these fantasies that are disconnected from reality because there are situations that we don't want to face, or this confusion that is created because we are really in resistance to listen to our intuition. This could be accompanied by this falling of veils. I mean, revelations of situations that we didn't want to see. Also, this opposition could be pushing us to surrender to the invisible. I mean, there could be a direction that we intuitively feel that it is for us, but yet it is not showing like visible results. And this could create a sensation of being lost or of losing sense, or that what we are doing has no function, when that is not true. This is another form of self-deceit. So in order to take advantage of this grand trine, we also have to assimilate this opposition with Neptune. On the other side, this same day, but this is active from the beginning of the week, we have the Sun in Leo perfecting a trine with Saturn retrograde in Aries. This is one of the seals of the eclipse in Leo. That is going to be an eclipse of south node, of letting go of cleansing, so you can understand. But with this trine, there is a great possibility of construction, of something that we really want to create for the long term. Or it could be that a fruit, that we are bearing a fruit, that there is an opportunity that we were already generating from the responsibility with previous decisions, and that right now is manifesting, the result of a seed that we have put before. So responsibility, this is not attention, but I like to clarify this. Responsibility is not an over adaptation to other people's expectations from over effort. Responsibility is more these processes that we are facing that perhaps are invoking fears, or they are challenging our capacities, and we learn to establish boundaries, and we learn to act in a coherent way with the reality, a coherent and consistent way with the reality that we want to see. It is just that many times we are not realizing how we are not coherent with ourselves. So coming back to the trine, for some people this could begin with a tiny step or a decision, but this could take a very a great form after, a very expansive form, because Jupiter in Leo is also creating a trine with Saturn. So this is a grand trine of fire, and we don't always have all of these harmonic aspects in the sky. I am explaining this because we are coming, 2024, 2025, we have experimenting squares between Saturn and Jupiter, the expansion and the restriction. And right now, we are in this phase of trines. This is the moment where the rewards are being opened, or the bridges through which we can move forward. So experiences are showing us that even though we are going through challenges, and many times they are too much challenges, we can trust on the wisdom of cosmos, and with the fire everything is available, so things can move fast in a very fluid way. But we have to make our part, which is taking action. Okay, at last, but this is also part of the eclipse. I am saying this because you have to take this in account for that event. On August 9th, Mercury enters Leo, and it is going to do so in a square with Chiron retrograde in Taurus, opposition with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, trine with Neptune retrograde in Aries, and sextile with Uranus in Gemini. So Mercury is reactivating the barbot basket. Mercury in Leo is this capacity of communicating in great loyalty of who we are. It is being able to express ourselves in this authentic way, connecting with the creative ideas that are, fulfilling us, or that are connecting us with enthusiasm, and that we also want to share with others, in a generous way. It is the voice that we can use to contribute with our light to the world, but also with an opposition with Pluto that is going to be perfected, the days that are surrounding the eclipse. Could be the voice that we are hiding to be accepted by, certain environments, sustaining a mask, or the conflicts, the discussions that we are sustaining that are not contributing with anything and that are draining our energy because we want to impose to other people. And when we enter in those dynamics, is our ego in imbalance the one that is operating, and there is going to be a lot of tendency for these things to happen, so we can identify them, because this is also the eclipse in Leo. We could talk about reactive conversations because of the shadow and the wounds that the other is awakening in me, and that many times we don't want to see. We could believe illusory that we are in a better position or in a worse position than other people morally, uh, or this could be the fear of expressing ourselves or deciding over a situation because we are trying to control something or retaining something. Perhaps there is an attachment, and this is creating tension and instability. I want to remind you that the mirror is not always direct. I mean, someone could be very, very arrogant, and people are expressing themselves like that person has nothing to do with me. But perhaps the arrogance of the other is telling you how you are always putting you down, and how the excess of the other person is the thing that you need to incorporate or rebalance in yourself. So at the same time, Mercury is creating these connections with Neptune and Uranus, so there are possibilities opening up, and they are not minor ones. I mean, each experience in which we can bring consciousness, awareness, identification, so we can reposition ourselves in a different way if we need to do so, is what opens the door to other individual and collective realities that could be, genuinely good for us. But we have to make the labor, the process of the inner labor. Okay, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.